Is this strictly going to be a front-end fabrication plant? How are you planning on addressing the back-end assembly?
Now we have only planned to do the front-end processing. The back-end is going to be done as usual in the Far East, but there are also initiatives right now in Brazil where one of the other investors is thinking about establishing the assembly and module facility also in Brazil, which we then certainly would use for our purposes as well.
How do you intend to fill in the fab, right? You know, I can't imagine you're going to have dozens of products to start with. You're going to have a fab next year producing thousands of wafers a month, I guess. How are you going to fill it up?
The following, as we said before, we were going to ramp manufacturing just in 2015. Until then, we still have to build the building and then get the technology qualified. But in the meantime, we have started our design activities already so that we are able to crank out designs earlier than our fab is coming up, and then we're using the facilities that were mentioned by IBM, by Ed before, where we have the chance to do manufacturing there. So we are doing an early introduction into the market with products that we are designing right now so that we have a smooth, let's say, step into the market as we then ramp in 2015.
My question was more like, are you intend to fab for other people as well, or is just, you know, it's going to be a capped fab just for you guys?
Say that, please.
Is it going to be a capped fab, just produce your own parts, or do you intend to offer foundry services as well to third parties?
The foundry services that we're gonna do is not more than 20%. As you might guess, that would be difficult to compete with international foundries, big foundries that have a lot higher economy of scale than we have. So we are more intending to concentrate on highly customized products that we're doing by ourselves or being ASICs being asked by customers from outside.
Your product, how much can you sell in Brazil and Latin America?
You saw that one of the areas that we want to focus is microfluidics, okay? And with some brand new breakthrough technology coming from the work with IBM. Only there, if we take the requirements and necessities of Brazil in public health and what goes on today in the country, and we intend to establish relationships with the major organizations and agencies that are dealing with that. We believe that we could find applications that by itself would give us a lot of production to just do things that are needed in Brazil, just in that area, healthcare and microfluidics, not to talk about smart sensors, which is another way, another application that in Brazil is in the plan and it's happening, which is a smart grid. And more will need this kind of application. IBM mentioned the smart city, that it is also coming in the new developments in Brazil. And as I mentioned in my presentation, the fact that automation is picking up in Brazil because of the high labor costs that exist right now. We also believe that in there we're going to find niche applications where we are going to find ways to sell chips to the local market. Of course, we are not focusing only on that. Of course, we need to export as well, and we do the best we can to stay in the niches and bring value added and technology and breakthrough that you don't easily find in other places, so that we can also be competitive in that. We're not going to, of course, get into head-to-head with the majors and things that we can really not be competitive or not add anything. But at the beginning, we start with products, even many in Burlington, but using designs that we can evolve and apply in Brazil. And we are starting to develop all those relationships and finding out the needs 3, 4, 5 years from now, so that we can escape the trap of having just to survive with exports.
I imagine that you're also hiring non-Brazilians as you're looking for talent worldwide. And can you elaborate a little bit more in terms of what's available for foreign professionals and what's the visa situation and a little bit of that?
Yes, the positions are available for foreigners. Okay, we are working with the government to get the visas, the required visas. Of course, there is still a rather lengthy process, more than what we'd like to, but we are discussing with the government, as I said, for the fast track and be able to acquire all the visas that are necessary for the foreigners to join us. There is no secret. We all know that we need an ecosystem. We need a lot of capacitation. And need a lot of the few brains that we develop over time are basically here in Silicon Valley and some other places. They had to leave Brazil because there were no options. So the government has also the understanding that we cannot just put a fab or two and pretend that we're going to develop an industry. So they're working with us to facilitate what is needed so that we can bring the foreigners as well together with the local people, and over time then develop all the programs. We'll be working with the state of Minas Gerais, with the universities that you saw mentioned here. We'll be working with the top universities in Brazil and research centers to develop long-term programs, curriculum that can be approved by the Ministry of Education in Brazil, and make sure that then we slowly but surely we start developing the capacitation of people and specialized engineers to take it on. So all foreigners are welcome. And Brazilians are very friendly, and we welcome everybody. And there is no problem of discrimination. Once you get there, you get a visa, you're going to be treated like any other Brazilian.
We have founded in U.S. a semiconductor subsidiary so that we can hire people immediately. In the meantime, they are prepared, and we can prepare the visa procedures for them to move back to Brazil. So we have already a company established here in U.S. that is prepared and ready to hire people immediately.
I have a question regarding other applications. Have you guys considered military applications or avionics, especially with Embraer? If not directly, through local designers that will probably ask you guys to manufacture ASICs.
We certainly have the ability to do so. That depends on how the market is reacting to our capabilities. And we are open also to do military applications as well as medical applications and others in the respective areas that were mentioned before. It can be telecommunications, sensoring techniques, etc. But that is a part that is as it is done in other companies as well, like here in the U.S.
I'm interested in the tax benefits you talked about. That it's nothing, and for how long will they be in place? Maybe just expand upon that a little bit, if you could.
For the time being, we have the tax benefit up to 2022, and it's going to be extended if it's necessary, according to the agreement that we have with the federal government. And the PADIs, as it was mentioned before, it grants to 6 semiconductors, as well as to any other semiconductor industry in the country, tax zero on federal. As you know, Brazil has a very complex tax mechanism and system, and basically tax are split into 3 different levels. You have most of it at the federal level, then you have the state level, and the municipality level. In our case, we have tax zero in all federal level tax. Through an agreement with the state of Minas Gerais, we have also we have been granted tax zero in the state level, and we are now in the process to reduce the municipality tax incentive. But answer to your question, the federal tax that we are exempt is valid until 2022.
And what is the inherent advantage, just percentage-wise? Maybe if there's some way you can quantify that. Obviously, since you're not paying taxes versus other people have to ship there. What is that? Is it a 5% benefit, a 10% benefit? Just maybe some way to quantify that for your competitive advantage.
If you put all tax together, let's start with some of the tax that are on top on the sales side. Already there you have almost 9.5%, okay, from federal tax that would eventually not apply in our case. And then if you go to the corporate income tax rate, then you're talking about 27%. So just to give you some data points. So it's very significant. And again, that was done not because of SIX. The law existed already for quite a while. Is again this desire of the government of fostering this industry in Brazil, and understanding that without this kind of support, that by the way happened in other places, in other parts of the world, considering that we still have a very expensive energy, which at the end of the day is a major component in here in what we do with semiconductors, then without this kind of support, we wouldn't be able really to start up and to survive. In addition to that, the government is establishing some programs that require some local content, like starting basically next year, all cellular phones in Brazil to be sold in Brazil would have to have 50% local content. That is basically forcing companies like Foxconn to put plants in Brazil to manufacture for Apple and others. So this is also something that is going to help us fill up the fab and make sure that at least in the first years we get a good market share of the local market and try to basically survive. And then once we learn to crawl and walk, then we can run with everybody else in the world. We are not afraid.
We are going to import almost 100% of the needed equipment, and we do not pay tax on that. I cannot precisely tell you how much it represents, but it's going to have a tremendous impact in depreciation cost of our operation.
I just wanted to make sure if the Padis law is also extended for EDA software for the design activities.
Yes.
So what you've described is a really world-class opportunity that's going to transform and establish Brazil as an innovation nation. You're talking also about an ecosystem. Can you share with us some of the innovations or some of the entrepreneurial activities that are taking place in Brazil today that would basically benefit from having a local fab?
Well, basically there are many activities going on in terms of innovation in Brazil. And let me just give you a little bit of a view of what is happening in Rio de Janeiro alone. Our friends here, our partners in many different ventures, IBM has just set up a worldwide research center in Brazil for natural resources solutions. They are, by the way, our partners in SIX technology as well that I mentioned here has been our arm working on those industry solutions. And together we'll be developing IP, doing new industry solutions for basically the industries that we are right now as a matter of priority, as I mentioned, energy, oil and gas, and mining and logistics, but then expanding to other things. That is one example. We already have quite a large research activity in the oil and industry, and that is already happening for quite some time in Brazil because of Petrobras and the whole development now with the pre-salt oil that we found that is also attracting companies from all over the world to join there and establish their research centers to work on that. There are initiatives as shown here also by BNDES fostering the IC project fostering design, capacitation of design and design houses in Brazil to go into innovation and try to develop new things. So that's another one. There is, as I mentioned, a lot of research being done on smart grid and the whole power management and be able to put efficient systems to save energy and be more environmentally friendly as well. There is a new line of innovation coming out related to environment where the laws are becoming more and more stringent and very enforced. And that is also creating a whole new segment and companies and ventures working on innovative systems to deal with the environmental issues. We've been one where we're just putting, clean coal burning in the thermal power plant that I showed you. It cost us much more money to do the power plant, but that's the only way you can really do burn coal today in the world, at least the only responsible way of doing it, even though not everybody's doing it. So there's quite a lot coming on. Again, it's a long road, but we do have a good environment now fostering all this innovation. And we have capacitation, not specifically in terms of semiconductors, but I mean on the top universities in the country, we do have top-notch education and capacitation for people. Unfortunately, still is a very small percentage of our population that get access to that, and that's why we have to work to make it, increase the access to other people.
There is companies like Embraer who basically, to grow in Brazil, they look at the international market. And that was an enablement for them to grow and basically survive when they were starting a business that was really hard for the internal market, right? Semiconductor in Brazil is still kind of a new market where we have also to educate people how to design, identify, and develop an opportunity. Can, meanwhile, SIG Semiconductor work as a tier 2 company to other partners of IBM? When a fab will get into, someone needs to outsource production outside of another fab?
As I mentioned, part of the partnership that we at IBM have with SIG Semiconductors is on the business and the commercial growth. And so certainly as opportunities come up where perhaps, as you mentioned, an IBM customer may need a second source, may need a technology that is more strategic to be provided by SIG, we can certainly share those customers. That's
all right. But there's no like agreement in place, like so that you have seen that as covering part of the capacity of SIG Semiconductor in the beginning, that you could have like that timeshare of the fab.
So as those opportunities come up, we'll deal with them, on a case-by-case basis, establish the relationship around that. We have a conceptual plan for that now. The specific details need to wait for each opportunity.
IBM is much more than just a technology partner here. IBM is a shareholder. It's with us, has equity in the company. And we do have a very good relationship in other parts of the business, I mean, with the group, with the EBX. So the dialogue is very open, all the way up to the top. And as those opportunities come, and we've discussed some of them, we'll be talking and see, I mean, which direction things should go. But the bottom line is that we are all here, sitting here. We have a vested interest in the success of SIG.
How many other fabs will be compatible to the process of 130 and 90 nanometers developed at SIG Semiconductors?
I said before, it's really hard to say, but I think that you have fabs that are converted right now around the world. Let's take global, okay? That are just converted, like also memory fabs that were 200 millimeter some time ago, now converted to mixed signal. It takes some time, but just to give you a number so that you can grab it, I mean, we are producing around, I think, around 200 million wafers, 200 millimeter per year in semiconductors, okay? And there is a constant change of going down the node race, the node chain, but also in terms of complexity, going from memory, being converted fabs, etc. So if you take it around, most probably you have of the 1,000 fab another 100 that doing 130, 90 nanometers as well, or 150, really hard to say. But from that, what you see is growth. There is no really competition in terms of, let's say, that you're grabbing something or have to grab something from somebody else, because when you just calculate a 6% or 11%, as we saw before, on mixed signal growth, there's so many wafers that have to be produced that the market is demanding that we can produce these wafers on our side, and there can be another 20 fabs introduced every year without getting in each other's way, okay, just to satisfy the demand. That is what the nature of the semiconductor industry is, provided that you're competitive, which we are always intending to do, that we are on a worldwide level cost competitive as any other fab has to be as well.
I think you just answered part of the question. This is targeted to be a 200 millimeter fab. What's your targeted capacity per day I'm not sure if that was mentioned earlier.
The target of capacity was shown before, 360 wafers per day. That computes in around 100,000 wafers per year out.
And when you're looking at this, do you have a split between the microfluidics and the actual IC products, or is this completely independent?
There will be certain interdependencies, but there's some separation in that, because microfluidics will not run on 130 on 90 nanometers, but it will be a system-on-chip solution that combines both technologies to provide a total solution to the market. But you can say that the split is around 20 to 25% microfluidics, and the other is going to be then sensoring techniques and other products that we have to produce.
And last question, when it comes to testing of the mixed signal products, do you have plans to introduce wafer probe or some form of test as part of this overall solution?
Yeah, we will have some capability in-house that we have directly in the fab, but certainly we will also have then capabilities that we have to search outside.
I know that the PDIS program, in order to qualify for it, you also have to commit to doing at least 5% of your revenue in R&D. So can you comment on what you plan on doing for research and development, and how are you going to ensure that that does qualify and meet the requirements?
Just one correction. It's 5% upon the domestic sales. But we have at least 25%.
No, I think that what we have seen so far with the activities that we already have launched, like the ones that were described on microfluidics, we're also working on biosensors and on other sensor technologies. We have far more than that 5% that will carry us through the next years that we're going to spend.
I have calculated that, by the way, last week.
Speak in the microphone.
I have made a calculation last week, and we are going to have, in the next 5 years, $400 million that can be considered research and development within 6 in the next 5 years.
And we actually have launched also some other programs, despite the ones that we have with IBM, where we develop, like we go into the non-volatile RAM, where we're doing developments as well with an American company developing joint IP, etc. So we are actually committed, and that is what we're intending to do, that our base of 130, 90 nanometers, we're always going to revitalize with spending R&D money in advancing our technologies by adding features and functionalities to make sure that we always have a vital, let's say, technology portfolio to offer to our customers.
So there's a good number of system companies in Brazil producing electronic systems, but generally they're reluctant to invest in development of their own chips. There's also a good number of design houses. We saw the chart flashing by. But other than SATEC, all of them are hurting because there's no funding for fabless semiconductor companies. Definitely BNDES doesn't want to invest in small companies. So my question is, who's going to fund the development of the chips that are going to be produced in your fab?
First of all, and then I pass it over to Alan as well, is we will have an own design center on site as well. Despite the ones that you saw already that have been established, but as I can say from that what I know, BNDES is funding these kind of activities.
We have several lines that we can fund the development of the chip, the design of the chip, even being in a small company or things like that. And we have the government policy to dance the value chain. So the smartphones from this year ahead, they will have to have a national content of 50%. And like this, all of the products manufactured in Brazil will have a minimum percentage of national content, and we will bring this to reinforce the chain, the value chain of SIX and electronic products in Brazil?
Well, you showed the chart of Brazil with all the design houses. Other than CETEC, is there any one of them that you have put any venture capital in?
Now, let me just make one thing very clear. The SIX project is fully funded until break-even.